Okay, so welcome to the Brunel final of the 3MT competition. This represents the culmination of a university-wide search for our best talent amongst research students in being able to explain their research within a very short amount of time, only 3 minutes. Last month we held college heats in each of our 3 colleges to find the best from each college, and today the finalists from those heats get the chance to battle it out for the coveted title of Brunel 3MT 2015 winner, and also the opportunity to represent Brunel at the Vitae UK finals. So what is 3MT? Well, it was formed originally by the University of Queensland as a skills development activity to challenge students to be able to explain their research in just 3 minutes. It's since been taken up across the world, so that there are now universities across the world and an international competition. And as I said, there's also a UK-wide final which is supported by Vitae. I'm very delighted that we've got a great judging panel today to help us decide who the winners are. I will ask each of the judges to just stand up and show themselves as I introduce them. So we're delighted to welcome Professor Andrew George, Barry Hodges-White, who's from our Innovation Centre, Tatiana Kalganova from College of Engineering, Alexandra Zantiki from CBAS, and Professor Benjamin Zephaniah. We do really appreciate the time that our judges are going to spend judging today, and I hope that it will also be an enjoyable event for them. I'd also like to thank those from the colleges who judged the college heats, and we appreciate their time as well. So, just to recap on the rules, the presenters are allowed a single static PowerPoint slide, no animations. There's no additional electronic media allowed, no sound or video files, no props, except for a laser pointer is allowed. They are limited to 3 minutes, and anyone exceeding 3 minutes is disqualified, and there is a timer on the wall presenting the time that elapsed. Poems are to be in the spoken word. Poems. Talks are to be talks are to be in the spoken word, but no poems. Sorry. The presenters will come up on stage. We have an introductory slide which will have their name and the title, so they'll be able to tell us their name and the title. We will then flip over to their one slide, and once we flip over to their one slide, their time has started and the clock will start to count down. And the decision of our panel will be final. So the judging criteria come to us from the international 3MT competition. The judges will be looking at comprehension and content. So are people able to provide an understanding of what they did in their research that's free from scientific jargon, can be understood by a broad audience? And also present it in a way that's giving adequate time to each element, even though they've only got 3 minutes overall. Is it clear and logical? They'll also be looking for engagement and communication, your ability as a presenter to engage with the audience, your presence on stage, that the PowerPoint enhances the presentation rather than detracts from it. And also it leaves us wanting to know more. The prizes for the Brunel event, the winner will be awarded £500, the runner-up £200, and there is also the People's Choice Award, which you as the audience get to decide, and that is a £100 prize. If somebody goes on to win the UK national prize, I believe that they will be given something like £5,000 to engage in knowledge exchange work. So there's quite a good UK level prize there as well. So I'm going to stop now and hand over to the people that you really want to hear, who are our presenters. I would like to wish them the best of luck. I know that it's a very kind of daunting task to present in this kind of venue, but they have done amazingly well in their college heats, and hopefully they will rise to the occasion and present very well today. So thank you to all our speakers.
My name is Rachel Donachie, and my talk is, if fish could vote, what chemical would they be most concerned about? Okay, so we as human beings use a multitude of chemicals every single day. We've got pharmaceuticals to improve our health, pesticides to protect our crops, and we've got things like metals and plastics to produce the chairs, for example, that you're sitting on. But which of these chemicals is of the greatest threat to freshwater ecosystems in the UK? There's 100,000 chemicals to think about. So in their use, production, and at the end of their life, these chemicals can end up in the aquatic environment. And then the aquatic organisms that are in the environment are then exposed to this cocktail of chemicals. So my thesis is trying to develop an unbiased methodology to risk ranking these chemicals based on the threat they present. So, because believe it or not, chemicals can be fashionable. And the risk assessment of chemicals can be influenced by politicians, media, fashion, and scientists' general preference for a certain chemical. So another way to think about this is, if we were to give fish a vote and say, what is the chemical of most concern to you, what chemical would they say? So the way I'm going about this is I'm collecting data on environmental concentrations of chemicals in the UK. So that's measured or predicted. And I'm also collecting data on the effect concentrations for each chemical. So that an effect is where a certain concentration has caused an impact. So it could be mortality and a change in reproduction or behavioural change. So I've got two data sets for each chemical that I'm looking at, and I take the median value, which is the typical value, and create what I call a risk ratio, so you can see here. And the greater that risk ratio, the greater the concern. So far in my studies, the top 5 chemicals of concern, I've got 3 metals. One of them is copper, which is the top one. I've got a pharmaceutical, which is ethinyl estradiol, which is found in the contraceptive pill. And I've got triclosan there, which is a personal care product, which is found in soaps and toothpaste because it's an antibacterial. So why am I doing this? Well, I want to remove the bias from risk assessment so that scientists and policymakers can be better informed and make better decisions about where they put their research efforts and research funding as we go forward in trying to protect our freshwater ecosystems in the UK. Because we've got 100,000 chemicals today, but that number is only going to increase. So thank you very much.
Welcome everyone. My name is Helga Lecker, and I'm looking at the changing higher education environment in England, and I'm investigating some of the implications for students and universities. So who doesn't know the situation? You have prepared your presentation for weeks, but in the moment of truth, you can't get a word out. Or you have this brilliant idea, but then you're too afraid to speak up? Because unfortunately, it's often not so much about what we know, but how we present it, and also how we present ourselves. And it often comes down to one thing: confidence. My research claims that confidence is one of the most important factors for student employability and has to be taught at universities. But let's rewind first. My research was motivated by the recent changes in the higher education sector, the introduction of £9,000 tuition fees probably being the most important one for students. So in my first study, I wanted to see, have students changed their expectations now that they're paying almost triple the price for a degree? Through this, I identified employability as a key concern for students. In my second study, I looked further into employability, and there was one recurring word that caught my eye: confidence. But what exactly is confidence, and how does it relate to employability, and why is it important anyway? Paying £9,000, students now more than ever are concerned and expect to be employable after they graduate. But universities are not required to teach employability skills, and there are no set guidelines on how to teach these skills. Also, the role of confidence within employability has not been explored in depth. My research aims to clarify these gaps. So through my third study, I found out that confidence for students isn't as much a character trait, but rather a skill that can be learned and developed. And my initial findings show that employability skills have to be taught regardless of the study course. Because how is it possible that psychology students in their final year never had to do a presentation? Wouldn't confidence or communication skill be expected of a psychologist just as much as of a business executive? Second, students are not sufficiently aware about the importance of employability skills. They are, however, overconfident about them. And third, students would like to practice their studied material in a real-world context, and they would highly value feedback from employers. Their argument was, how can my professor, after 20 years in the industry, still know what's happening in the classroom, still know what's happening in the industry? So to conclude, confidence is crucial and has to be taught at universities in order to meet the expectations of students to be employable. It's also important in everyday and in academic life, because remember, if you have confidence, you have won before you started. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Shioma Paul. I'll be talking to you today about using fiction to explore the traumatic impact of Grenada's taboo history. In March 1979, Grenada, the small island in the Eastern Caribbean where my mother is from, became the focus of world headlines. The New Deal movement, a socialist political party, led a coup that overthrew the then Prime Minister Eric Gairy. Forward ever, backward never became the revolution's tagline. Grenada's future looked bright. Then, in October 1983, following a vicious split within the governing party, hundreds of civilians were injured, killed, or died trying to escape a brutal battle. On one side, Maurice Bishop, Prime Minister and leader of the People's Revolutionary Government. On the other, Deputy Prime Minister Bernard Coade and the People's Revolutionary Army. The conflict culminated in the assassination of 8 persons, including Maurice Bishop himself, cherished by many as the people's hero. Following Bishop's murder, the People's Revolutionary Army issued a 24-hour shoot-on-sight curfew. A week later, the United States invaded and extinguished the expectations of the masses by reversing many of the progressive processes put in place by Bishop's government. The revolution had imploded, the cherished leader murdered, and a great number of the dead were dumped and burned in anonymous mass graves by the army. My research shows that for many Grenadians, whether they lived through this period or not, the failed revolution is still a traumatic memory. This has resulted in a suppression of debate and conversation regarding these events. As a result, I sought to determine the following. Can fiction assist in helping overcome such trauma? Can fiction be used to stimulate the dialogue needed to confront the issues that have been avoided for so long? After conducting secondary research, I traveled to Grenada and interviewed 5 of the revolutionary leaders recently released from a life sentence in prison for Bishop's assassination. I also managed to find a handful of civilians who lived through the period and who were willing to speak to me. Overall, I interviewed a range of people whose experience of the process varied from imprisonment to direct involvement with the revolution as either a soldier, leader, or party supporter. I subsequently invented fictional characters in a novel that reflects some of the experiences of my interviewees. I focused on telling the story from a Grenadian perspective, as opposed to the journalistic accounts available in textbooks, which have been written mostly from an American viewpoint. It was important to convey the experience of Grenadians, with the intention that my novel will stimulate debate and conversation, and thus facilitate the process of healing the nation's psychological damage caused by the trauma. Thank you.
My name is Jennifer Hall, and the title of my PhD thesis is Take a Stand for Workplace Health. How many hours do you reckon that you sit each day? You're sitting now. You probably sat in your office for most of today, and tonight you'll probably sit and watch TV. We live in a sedentary society, and unfortunately for us, being sedentary or sitting for prolonged periods
can have negative consequences for our health. It increases the risk of many conditions, including diabetes, chronic back problems, and even some cancers. You might be sat there thinking, this won't affect me. I exercise all the time. But I'm afraid you're probably still at risk because of all that sitting that you're doing. So I'd like to give you the opportunity to stand with me. Yeah? And this is exactly what some workplaces are doing around the world. Sit-stand workstations are height-adjustable desks which, as you can see, allow the user to sit and stand. This may be an innovative solution to reduce prolonged sitting and incorporate activity into the working day. Over 70% of UK adults are employed, and so workplaces are key for delivering public health interventions. The organisations themselves are incentivised to develop healthy workplaces to cultivate a healthier workforce, as this may lead to organisational improvements such as productivity and performance. The aim of my thesis is to examine the effect of a 12-month sit-stand workstation intervention on physical activity, and to inspect whether incorporating sit-stand into the workplace is feasible and acceptable. The intervention is taking place in 2 open plan offices in central London, Macmillan Cancer Support and Public Health England. Sitting and standing are being measured using a device worn on the thigh that has an inbuilt inclinometer, which means that it can calculate the angle of the thigh to work out whether you're sitting or standing. Physical activity intensity and duration are being measured using an accelerometer, which estimates time spent in categories of light, moderate, and vigorous physical activity. To understand how and why the intervention impacts sitting, standing, and physical activity in the workplace, observations of and interviews with participants and key stakeholders are taking place. Combining an outcome evaluation with a systematic and rigorous process evaluation is a novel methodological approach in this research area, which allows us to identify active ingredients of a successful sit-stand intervention. Consequently, the findings from this ongoing project can guide occupational wellbeing policy to influence what happens in practice in organisations. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Sarah Ahmed. I'm doing my PhD in applicant reactions to online selection procedures. So, the slides? Yeah. Over the last 2 decades, technological advances have played a significant role in how organizations are selecting and assessing their job applicants, with the internet emerging as a key medium of these selection practices. Of these technological advances, online selection procedures have had the most profound impact on the science and practice of personnel selection, and are one of the most popular selection methods used by the organizations nowadays. In fact, online selection procedures have many practical benefits for both job applicants and the organization, such as offering 24/7 access for job applicants regardless of their physical location, providing the organization with a large pool of applicants that can be handled and managed in an easier and faster way, leading to a significant time and cost improvement for both organizations and job applicants. But what about the fairness of online selection procedure, and what are the consequences of using them on the organizations? In fact, little is known about the fairness of this procedure and how applicants perceive and react to this online selection procedure. It's very important to understand applicant perspective, as their reaction can directly affect the organizations and their performance. Therefore, my research aims to examine applicant fairness reaction to 3 types of the most popular online selection procedures, which is online applications, online tests, and online interviews, and the antecedents and outcomes of their fairness perceptions. By surveying 506 job applicants in the UK, my research found that, first, online selection procedures were perceived as a fair selection procedures in all justice dimensions, with online applications rated most favorably, followed by online tests, then online interviews, all in the medium range. Secondly, Secondly, privacy concerns negatively affect their fairness perceptions, in which applicants with lower privacy concerns reported higher fairness perceptions, and consequently, applicants with positive fairness perceptions have higher attractiveness toward the organizations using them, higher trust in the organizations, higher reapplication intentions, and lower litigation intentions. Overall, my research shows that applicant fairness perceptions largely drive their reactions toward the organizations, and therefore, organizations should provide the applicants with more information and explanations about their privacy policies and their online selection procedure, and also assure the applicant that their information will be kept safe and secure, which will reflect on positive reactions toward the organizations. Thank you, everyone.
Hello everyone, my name is Sian Marsden-Jones, and today I'm going to be talking to you about developing a novel computational model for purifying new medicines. Who in this room has ever had a headache? I would guess at everybody. Who in this room has ever taken paracetamol? I would guess at most people. When you took that paracetamol, you were placing a large amount of trust in the pharmaceutical industry that what you were taking was pure paracetamol and it didn't contain any toxic impurities that would be harmful to your health. You trusted that those impurities had been separated out. The process of separating out components of a mixture is called chromatography. Here I have a very visual example of chromatography, which I hope you'll be familiar with, even if you didn't know it was chromatography. When you pass white light through a prism, it forms a rainbow. This is because the white light is a mixture of many colours that the prism separates out. So continuing with this analogy, the white light is the drug and its impurities that I'm trying to separate out. The question is, what have I used as my prism? I've been using something called liquid-liquid chromatography. Now, I don't know if any of you have ever been to an Italian restaurant, and for the starter, you chose the bread, the olive oil, and the balsamic vinegar. If you did, you'll know that it doesn't matter how hard you try, you cannot get those liquids to mix. That's because they are immiscible. If you place two immiscible liquids in a container, they form two layers. If you then dissolve compounds up in these layers, some compounds will prefer to be in the top layer and some in the bottom. If you mix this all up and get it to temporarily form one layer, you allow the compounds to move between the layers, and eventually you will separate out the compounds. The basis of this technique is what you choose your liquids to be. By changing the combinations or which ones you use, you can separate a hugely diverse range of compounds. However, this choice is currently based on trial and error or literature analysis. This is hugely time-consuming and not always accurate. So for my PhD, I've developed a novel computational model that, using just the molecular structure of your compound, will allow you to choose the perfect liquids to perform your separation using just molecular structure. This is an example of a mixture that had 3 compounds in that I successfully separated on the first attempt using nothing but the molecular structure. My model is almost instantaneous, which reduces method development time from days and sometimes even weeks. This is really important, as currently the pharmaceutical industry says that it takes $2.5 billion to get a drug to market. So saving time really is saving money. Thank you.
Hello, hi everyone. My name is Maxime Bolu. I'm already short of respiration. My subject is called Pushing Laser Welding to the Next Step. Okay, here we go. Would you like to fly to New York for £100? I bet yes. But first, in order for aerospace company to drop flight ticket prices, they need to save money somewhere else, right? And one of the major costs of running flights is repair cost. My research aims to save millions in this aspect. You see, aerospace industry need improved solution to repair and produce high-value parts made of nickel and nickel superalloys. These materials, which are incredibly resistant to heat and corrosion, are used for critical parts in the plane engine. And in terms of repair, one of the best options available will be laser welding. This technique consists of focusing a high-power laser beam to the interface of materials you want to join. The laser beam is then propagated along the seam, materials absorb the energy, they melt and mix together. Ta-da, a weld is made. This joining process is a desirable economic technique because it is accurate, flexible, non-contact, fast, and it introduces low distortion effects. But all these benefits are overshadowed by one issue when it comes to nickel and nickel superalloys. If these materials melt or solidify too quickly, which is the case with this technology, cracks appear, resulting in a brittle weld. In brief, these materials need a very controlled heat input in order to minimize the formation of cracks. And keep in mind that we are dealing with critical parts that make the plane fly. So the criteria for the weld integrity are stringent. Hence, the Windows process for repair is very narrow and sometimes not possible. But improving the technology is possible, and this is what my PhD is about. Improving the laser welding process by adapting and controlling the heat inputs in order to achieve high-quality weld of nickels and nickel superalloy. One solution I'm investigating in order to control the temperature flow during the welding is to use specific optics that can change the energy distribution of your laser beam. These specific optics, called DOE, standing for diffractive optical elements, use the diffraction principle, as you guessed, to split the incoming laser beam and redirect the fragment to form a desired pattern of energy distribution. So you can manufacture it or design a DOE in order to obtain a specific pattern of energy distribution. This can be, like in this slide, 3 beams with different intensity, one for preheating the materials, one for the weld, and the last one for controlling the cooling down. Hence, DOE can simplify processes and luckily achieve high-quality weld of nickels and nickel alloys, saving millions for aerospace industry in terms of repairs and maybe resulting in a cheaper price tickets or more likely happier shareholders. Thank you.
Hello everybody, I am Parastu Qalamchi and I'm doing my PhD in business and management. My research is developing a capability-based decision model of attribution. This year, some Iranian women tried to defy the compulsory law of wearing hijab in Iran in a social campaign called My Stealthy Freedom. What they did, as you can see in that picture, they take off their scarf in open areas, they take photo or video from themselves and upload it on this Facebook page named My Stealthy Freedom. What they are simply saying is, this is my right to choose what to wear. And government should not tell me what to do, ignoring my self-determination and freedom of choice. On the other hand, as you can see in this picture, some women, some Muslim women in France, protesting against French scarf ban law. What they are saying again is, this is my right to choose what to wear, and government shouldn't tell me what to wear, ignoring my self-determination. Okay, how do you, as a third-party observer, judge these women's decision? Can you set aside your biases and attribute a reliable reason to their decision? Do you know what forces limit their freedom of choice? This is exactly what my research is about. My research is about providing you, as a third-party observer, with a lens to see what influences their decisions and to understand their level of self-determination. We human beings cannot always freely choose what we want. We are sometimes like puppets. Our decisions are governed by some strings, like social string, emotional string, physical string, our goals, our previous decisions. The novelty of my work is that I have managed to collect almost all of these strings, forces from disconnected disciplines in one simple model. I have designed a questionnaire with 84 items because these items are measuring all of these strings, these forces. I have applied it in a sample of 1,200 employees, asking them about the forces, the elements, the factors influencing their career choice. After running factor analysis on this data, at the moment, I have 11 things, 11 factors that measures your level of self-determination. If you, as a policymaker, use my questionnaire beside my framework, you can easily understand their decision.
Hello everyone, my name is Yuhan Wang. I'm pleased here to present my PhD project, When Traditional Culture Meets Modern Life. Well, I will have a guess. What is this yellow object here? Well, follow me, then you will find it out later on. One day I was looking for a tea strainer for my friend as a gift on Amazon. But it came up with this cold, metal, and unfriendly product at the bottom of the slide. But I don't want these. You probably have a similar experience as me, but how do companies, they can make products to be appealing to their customers? Well, creative industries have provided a very powerful solution. They incorporate culture into music, movies, and design, which contributed £8 million per hour last year. So what cultural products are part of this money-making industry? But what are cultural products? Well, let me give you an example. This is a yellow tea strainer, which I bought for my friend. It is inspired from a Chinese vase of Qing Dynasty. They are like father and son, who share some common features, such as they have the same ears, the cloud-shaped belly buttons, and the yellow skin, but they don't look the same. So, I would like to buy my friend a product which is with a traditional cultural value, but she can enjoy the product when she's using it every day. So our research interest focuses on how to apply traditional cultural value into new modern product design in order to help companies to sell more products and to help consumers to get what they want. Well, our research, sorry, I'm too nervous. So our research focuses on how we design a toolkit which can help designers to enhance the emotional connection between the users and the product. We also would like to know how do Eastern and the Western population perceive cultural products. Guess what? Both populations have a very high appreciation for cultural products, but interestingly, they're perceived in a very different way. For example, the Easterners feel like this product is very attractive and they can present my thoughts because the cloud shape means good luck, while the Westerners feel like it is very exotic and fun without knowing the cultural link. So our research is the first study to engage emotions in cultural products and can broadly beneficial for fashion and interior design. Also, our toolkit can help to reach a win-win situation for both companies and consumers. So, in a long-term perspective, we wish our products can be very appealing and attractive to all the users in our future life. Thank you very much.
I'm Katrina Leifringhausen, and I'm going to tell you why UKIP might be stupid and multiculturalism not. Albert Einstein defined stupidity as doing the same thing over and over again, and yet expecting a different outcome. Now, I'm from Germany, and I grew up with stories about the Nazi propaganda, which claimed that cultural diversity is a threat to national culture. And now, 70 years later, right-wing parties like UKIP still argues the same. More immigration means less national culture. Yet, instead of feeling threatened, I argue multiculturalism can actually be a benefit, even for UKIP supporters, because it provides the option to integrate. And what do I mean? Feel your heartbeat. Do you feel it? Before I ask you, you were probably not aware of it. Culture works exactly the same. Only when we engage with people who have a different understanding of the world, then we're like, oh my God, something else is going on. Then we have two options. To what extent do I maintain my heritage culture, and to what extent do I adapt to this new culture? Now, 30 years of migration research have shown that, yeah, we can do both. Maintain and adapt at the same time. So culturally integrate, which also relates to the most beneficial adjustment outcomes. That is, only when you integrate, you actually fit and function in both cultures. So why can't locals then integrate towards multiculturalism in their own country? With data from about 2,000 locals later, my research shows that, yup, locals, just like migrants, can integrate. They can maintain their national culture while adapting towards other culture groups within their own society, which also related to the most beneficial adjustment outcomes. Now comes the tricky part, how to convince a UKIP supporter of these benefits. Well, those supporters strongly endorse conservation values, which implies the preference of the adherence of tradition, societal order, security, in complete contrast to seeking for creativity, change, novelties. With this in mind, I talked to a bunch of conservative locals and said, listen, multiculturalism either means fostering change in society, creativity, novelties, or it actually fosters the adherence of tradition, societal order, security. No, results are clear. If politicians keep campaigning multiculturalism only as a change for society, novelties, creativity, then yeah, UKIP supporters will not support it. But if they actually start to campaign it not as a threat to conservative values, but maybe as compatible, it also fosters the adherence of traditions, then even a UKIP supporter becomes a fan of multiculturalism. Thus, let's not repeat history. Let's try something new. Locals, even the conservative ones, have the option to integrate, to maintain the national culture and adapt to other cultures, which makes them fit and function in today's mixing societies. In short, this is why I think he would agree with me when I say UKIP is stupid and multiculturalism not.
Evening, everyone. I'm Dorothy Winfall, and I will be talking about fire performance of high-strength stills or high-strength stills at elevated temperatures. So, if this building was on fire, would you expect it to collapse straight away? Now, I hope you're all thinking no. See, the safety of people is one of the key objectives of structural fire design, and so a building must stand for a reasonable amount of time during a fire. The basis of structural fire design begins with an understanding of how the behavior of materials like steel change with temperature. Now, steel is a popular material choice in the construction industry, especially in multi-story buildings. And this is because of its excellent strength-to-weight ratio compared to wood or concrete. But as its temperature increases, its strength decreases. Now, the critical temperature is when its strength reduces to 60% of what it was at room temperature. So for your typical steel beam made from normal strength steel, this is around 560 degrees Celsius. Now, this is because once the strength is reduced to 60%, the steel beam can no longer support the load it was designed to carry, and so it could collapse. Now, the orange line is based on stills that are more commonly used in the construction industry, normal strength stills. I will be experimenting collecting similar data for the next generation, high strength stills. You see, high strength stills have the potential to contribute towards a sustainable future in the construction industry, and this is by further weight reduction compared to the stills that are currently used. Lighter structures and reduced section size leads to smaller foundations, reduced material consumption, and a lower carbon footprint. Lighter structures are easier to put up and quicker to transport, leading to reduced transportation and construction times. And furthermore, lighter structures or high-strength stills have the potential to enhance the architectural possibilities for society. But before engineers can specify high-strength stills and structures, it's important that its fire performance is fully understood. And so I am interested in its strength and stiffness at elevated temperatures. But actually, I have particular interest in the metallurgy or the microstructure of these stills, because that's what dictates the material properties, like strength. Various processing and chemical elements are used to manipulate the microstructure to get high strength at room temperature. I want to know which combination works best at retaining the strength during a fire. And can any metallurgical effects be utilized to help improve the critical temperature to, let's say, 650 degrees Celsius? Now, improving the critical temperature can help buy valuable time in terms of evacuating from a fire. So basically, my big research question is, Can I improve the fire performance of high-strength stills? So if we happen to be in a burning building, we will have enough time to safely escape. Thank you very much.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming along, and I'd like you to take this opportunity now to do your People's Choice for me. And as you leave, if you could hand it to the ambassadors outside, and then if you could please leave quite quickly, because we were going to need to get our judges to deliberate. I'd also like to invite you to stay on for our evening reception and prize-giving ceremony, where not only will we be awarding the 3MT prize winners, but also from our poster conference that's been going on in the last couple of days. So, lastly as well, thank you so much to all of our judges who have come along, and thank you to all of our participants who were amazing, I think you'll agree. And thank you also to all the graduate school staff who helped to make this event happen. Thank you, guys.